Jake wandered through the dusty market on the planet Korath. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the stalls filled with strange goods. He had come to find parts for his old spaceship, the Starfinder. The market was loud filled, with the voices of traders and the cries of aliens from many worlds. Jake had seen much in his travels, but today felt different as he moved through the crowd. He spotted something that made him stop. In the corner of the market, a group of aliens stood around a small stage. On the stage, a young alien woman was chained, her eyes filled with fear. She had bright green skin and long flowing hair that shimmered like silver. Jake felt a twinge of sympathy in his heart. He had always hated seeing anyone in chains. The trader, a large, brutish creature with 3 eyes, shouted at the crowd, "This one is strong. She will serve you well." He pointed to the girl, and the crowd murmured with interest. Jake pushed through the throng, closer to the stage. He needed to see her face when he reached the front. He looked into the girl's eyes. They were bright and filled with defiance. Despite her situation, she held her head high. Jake admired her spirit. He never liked bullies, and this was a classic case of one. He felt anger rise within him. How much for her? Jake asked, his voice steady. The trader turned to him, surprised. "You want her? She is not worth much." "Only 500 credits." Jake hesitated. 500 credits was a lot of money, but he couldn't stand by and do nothing. He remembered the times he had felt trapped, the times he wished someone would help him. Without thinking, he pulled out his credits and handed them over. "Deal." The trader grinned, his many teeth glinting in the light. He unlocked the girl's chains and pushed her down from the stage. "She is yours now." Jake reached out a hand. "I'm Jake," he said softly. "What's your name?" "Lyra," she replied, her voice firm despite her fear. Jake could tell she was not just any ordinary captive. There was something about her that made him curious. "Come on, Lara. We need to get out of here." As they walked away from the market, Jake felt a mix of emotions. He had freed Lyra, but he also knew she could be a danger. He had heard stories of powerful beings from other worlds. But as they moved through the crowded streets, he felt a strange sense of connection to her. "Where are we going?" Lyra asked, glancing around. "To my ship," Jake replied. "It's not far from here." Lyra nodded, but did not speak. Jake could sense her uncertainty. He understood she had just been freed from chains, and now she was following a stranger. He wanted to reassure her, but the words didn't come. Instead, he focused on navigating the busy streets. As they reached the quiet docking bay, Jake took a deep breath. The Starfinder stood there, its hull scratched and worn but still flying. He opened the hatch and gestured for Lyra to enter. "Welcome aboard," he said with a weak smile. Lyra stepped inside cautiously, her eyes wide as she looked around. "It's different," she said, studying the controls and the messy piles of equipment. "Yeah, it's not new, but it gets the job done," Jake replied, trying to lighten the mood. "We'll take it for a spin soon." Lyra crossed her arms, still not sure about Jake or the ship. "Why did you help me?" she asked. Her voice low. Jake paused, searching for the right words. "I couldn't just let you stay there. No one deserves to be a slave. Everyone should be free to choose their own path." Lyra studied him for a moment, her expression softening. "Most people do not think like that. They see us as tools, not beings." "Then they're wrong," Jake said firmly. "Everyone has a purpose. You deserve a chance to find yours." She smiled slightly, and Jake felt a warmth in his chest. For the first time, Lyra looked less like a captive and more like a person. As he started the ship's engines, they both felt the vibrations beneath their feet. "Hold on," Jake shouted, engaging the thrusters. The Starfinder lifted off with a roar, leaving the planet's surface behind Dot as they soared into the stars. Jake felt a sense of freedom wash over him. He turned to Lyra, who stared out of the viewport with wide eyes. The sight of the vast universe seemed to fill her with wonder. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Yeah, it is," Jake agreed, glancing at her. He couldn't help but admire her spirit. "What do you want to do now, Lyra?" She turned to him, her expression serious. "I want to go back. I need to find my people and free them from the same fate I had." Jake felt a jolt of surprise. "You want to go back? But it's dangerous." "I know," she replied, "but I cannot forget them. I was a leader. I have to help them." Jake considered her words. He never thought about fighting for a cause before. He was just a scavenger, trying to survive. But he felt a spark of hope. "Then we'll do it together," he said, determination filling his voice. "I'll help you find your people." Lyra looked at him, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you, Jake. You are brave to help me." As they traveled through the stars, Jake realized that freeing Lyra was just the beginning of a new journey. Together, they would face challenges and dangers, but they would also discover their true strengths. With the universe stretched out before them, Jake felt ready for whatever lay ahead. He had freed an alien slave, but he knew now that Lyra was no ordinary captive. She was a warrior, and he was proud to stand by her side. Asterisk, the Starfinder flew smoothly through the vastness of space. Jake sat in the pilot's seat, focusing on the controls. Lyra watched through the viewport, her eyes wide with wonder as stars twinkled like diamonds. For the first time, she felt free. But deep down, she knew their journey was just beginning. "Jake," Lyra said, breaking the silence. "Where are we going now?" Jake glanced at her. "I thought we could find a safe place to rest, maybe gather some supplies. Then we can plan our next move." Lyra nodded, but her expression was serious. "I need to return to my home planet. I cannot forget my people who still suffer." Jake felt a twinge of worry. "It won't be easy. The regime that captured you will be looking for you. We have to be careful." "I understand," Lyra replied, her voice steady, "but I cannot hide forever." Jake admired her determination. He knew how important it was to fight for what was right. "Okay, we'll go back. But first, let's find a place to lay low for a while." As they traveled, Jake punched in coordinates for a nearby asteroid field. It was a good hiding spot, away from prying eyes. After a short flight, the Starfinder entered the rocky area. "Here we are," Jake said, guiding the ship between the asteroids. He found a small cave and landed. This should be safe for now. Lyra looked around the cave as they stepped. Outside, the air was cool, and the sound of drifting rocks echoed softly. "It's quiet here," she said, relaxing a little. Jake began unloading supplies from the ship. "We'll need food and water. Let's see what we can find in the cave." Lyra followed him inside. The cave was dark and damp, but it was large enough for them to work. They found some old crates filled with canned food and a few bottles of water. Jake grinned. "Looks like we hit the jackpot." Lyra smiled, feeling relieved. They sat on the cave floor, sharing a meal. As they ate, Jake watched her. She had a fierce spirit, but there was also a kindness in her eyes. "Tell me more." "About your home," Jake said, curious. "What was it like before you were captured?" Lyra took a deep breath. "My planet, Zinthara, is beautiful. There are tall mountains and green forests. We live in harmony with nature. I was a leader among my people. We fought to protect our land from invaders." "Invaders?" Jake asked, intrigued. "Yes," Lyra said, her voice growing stronger. "They came from other worlds, like the ones who captured me. They wanted to take our resources and enslave us. I was leading a group to defend our home when I was taken. Jake felt a surge of anger. I can't believe people do this. It's wrong to take others' freedom. Lyra nodded. You are right. That is why I must go back. I need to help my people fight against the regime. After their meal, they began to plan. Jake pulled out a map of the region and spread it on the floor. If we go back to Xanthara, we need a solid plan. They will have guards and traps. Lyra studied the map carefully. There is a hidden path through the mountains. It leads to a small village where my people are hiding. We can start there. Jake traced the path with his finger. Okay, we'll take this route. It's risky, but it could work. As they discussed their plan, Lyra suddenly stopped. Her expression changed. Jake, I think we're being watched. Jake's heart raced. He turned his head, scanning the shadows of the cave. What do you mean? I can feel it, Lyra said, her voice low. Someone is near. Jake's instincts kicked in. He moved closer to the entrance, peering out into the darkness. We need to be careful. If the regime found us, we could be in serious trouble. Just then, a loud noise echoed through the cave. Jake jumped, his heart pounding. What was that? Before Lyra could answer, the cave entrance exploded with light. Shadows moved outside, and Jake could hear voices. They're here, he shouted, grabbing Lyra's arm. We have to get out now. They rushed deeper into the cave, looking for another way out. The voices grew louder as the guards entered the cave, searching for them. Split up, Jake said urgently. I'll draw them away. You find another exit. No, Lyra shouted. I won't leave you. Trust me, Jake replied, pushing her toward a dark tunnel. You have to go. I'll be right behind you. Lyra hesitated, but saw the determination in Jake's eyes. She nodded and slipped into the tunnel, moving quickly and quietly. Jake took a deep breath and turned to face the entrance. Jake and Lyra moved quickly through the asteroid field, using the shadows to hide from any searching eyes. The air was cool, and the sound of drifting rocks filled the silence. They knew they needed to find a safe place to rest and plan there. Next steps. Where should we go now? Jake asked, glancing at Lyra. There's an old outpost nearby, Lyra replied, her eyes bright with determination. It used to be a safe place for travelers. We can rest there and gather supplies. Sounds good, Jake said, feeling a sense of hope. He followed Lyra as they navigated through the maze of rocks. After a short walk, they arrived at the outpost. It was small and worn, with broken windows and faded signs. Jake looked around, scanning the area for any signs of danger. Stay close. He warned, leading the way inside. The outpost was dark and dusty, but it felt safe. They moved cautiously, checking each room. In one room, they found some old supplies, canned food, water bottles, and a few blankets. This should help us a lot, Jake said, smiling as he filled a bag with the food. Lyra looked around her, eyes filled with memories. I used to come here with my friends. We felt safe here, away from the troubles of the world. Jake could see how much this place meant to her. Let's make it our base for now, he suggested. We can rest and then plan our journey to Xanthara. As they settled in, Jake lit a small fire using some old wood he found. The warmth filled the room, and they sat together, eating their meal in silence. Lyra looked thoughtful, her mind clearly focused on their mission. Jake, she said after a while, we need to gather more allies. I cannot fight the regime alone, Jake nodded. I agree. We need to find people who are willing to help. Do you know anyone who might join us? Lyra thought for a moment. There are still some of my people hiding nearby. They may be afraid, but if we reach out, they could help us. Then let's do it, Jake said, feeling inspired by her courage. We'll find them and form a plan. After their meal, they decided to rest. They took turns keeping watch, knowing the guards from the regime could still be searching for them. Jake lay back on the blanket, staring at the ceiling. He thought about how quickly his life had changed. Just days ago, he was a scavenger looking for parts. Now he was part of something bigger, something important. When morning came, they packed their supplies and prepared to leave the outpost. Lyra led the way, her confidence growing with each step. If we go to the nearby forest, we can find the village where my people are hiding, she explained. Jake followed closely, impressed by her knowledge of the land. The forest was lush and green, a stark contrast to the rocky terrain they had just crossed. The trees were tall, their leaves rustling gently in the breeze. As they walked, Lyra shared stories about her home. In Zenthara, we celebrate the changing of the seasons. It brings us together, and we share food and stories around the fire. It sounds beautiful, Jake said, imagining the vibrant life she described. I can see why you want to go. Back. After a few hours of walking, they reached the edge of the forest. Lyra paused, sensing something. We need to be careful now. My village is close, but the regime may have spies nearby. Jake nodded, feeling the seriousness of the moment. Let's keep our voices low and stick to the trees. They moved, stealthily, staying hidden among the thick trunks. As they neared the village, they heard voices in the distance. Lyra's heart raced. That's them, she whispered. We have to be cautious. Jake looked ahead, spotting a clearing where a few small huts were built. He could see some of Lyra's people, but they looked worried and tired. How do we approach them? He asked. Lyra took a deep breath. I will call out to them. They need to know I am back. Are you sure? Jake asked, concerned. What if they're scared? I have to, Lyra insisted. They need hope. With that, Lyra stepped forward, her voice strong. People of Zenthara. It is I, Lyra. I have returned. At first, there was silence. Then a few heads turned, eyes widening in disbelief. One woman, an elder with gray hair, approached slowly. Is it truly you, Lyra? She asked, her voice trembling. Yes, it is me, Lyra said, stepping closer. I have not come alone. I have a friend who helped me escape, and together we will fight for our freedom. The crowd began to murmur, and Jake watched as Lyra's words sparked hope in their eyes. The elder looked at Jake with suspicion, but then turned back to Lyra. You are brave to return, but the regime is powerful. How can we fight them? We will gather our strength, Lyra replied, her voice firm. We will not face them alone. I believe we can unite our people and take back our freedom. More villagers began to gather, listening intently. Jake felt a sense of purpose growing within him. He stepped forward, wanting to support Lyra. Together, we can plan our attack. We know their weaknesses, and we can use that to our advantage. The villagers exchanged glances, uncertainty mixed with hope. The elder nodded slowly. Very well. If you believe we can do this, we will stand with you. Lyra smiled, relief washing over her. Thank you. We will need every hand to succeed. As they began to discuss their plan, Jake felt a surge of excitement. He was no longer just a scavenger. He was part of something much bigger. They shared ideas, and Jake listened, carefully learning about the strengths and skills of the villagers. After several hours of planning, they decided to split into groups. Some would gather supplies, while others would scout the regime's base nearby. Lyra was chosen to lead one of the groups, and Jake felt proud to stand beside her. Let's show them what we can do, Lyra said, her eyes shining with determination. As they moved through the forest, Jake realized how far they had come. He looked at Lyra, his ally and friend. They were ready to fight, ready to reclaim their freedom and restore hope to her people. With the village united and their spirits high, Jake and Lyra knew they were prepared for the challenges ahead. Together, they would face the regime and fight for a brighter future. The sun rose over the village of Zenthara, casting a warm glow on the trees. Jake woke up early, feeling the excitement in the air. Today was the day they would begin their fight against the regime. He stretched and looked. Around, villagers were already gathering, preparing for what lay ahead. Lyra was at the center of the group, speaking with the villagers. Her confidence radiated as she explained their plan. Jake watched her, impressed by her leadership. She had transformed from a captive into a warrior, and he was proud to stand by her side. As the villagers listened, Jake felt a sense of unity. They were no longer just a group of scared people. They were a team ready to reclaim their freedom. Jake joined the group, eager to help. "Lyra," he said, walking up to her. "What's our first move?" Lyra turned to him, her expression serious. "We need to gather more information about the regime's base. We must know their defenses and how many guards they have." "Do you have anyone who can help with that?" Jake asked. "Yes," Lyra replied, glancing at a young man standing nearby. "This is Kian. He knows the area well and can sneak into the base without being seen." Kian smiled shyly. "I will do my best," he said. "I have watched their movements before. I can tell you where they keep the prisoners." "Great," Jake said, feeling hopeful. "Let's get started." They gathered a small group of trusted villagers, including Kian. Lyra explained the plan. "We will send Kian to scout the base. He will return with information, and then we can decide on our next steps." Kian nodded, looking determined. "I will leave now and be back before dark." As Kian left, Jake felt the weight of the mission ahead. What if he doesn't come back? He asked Lyra quietly. "He will," Lyra replied confidently. "He is skilled and knows how to stay hidden. We must trust him." The group spent the day preparing for Kian's return. They gathered supplies, weapons, and anything they could use for the fight. Jake helped sharpen old tools and find makeshift weapons. He felt the energy of the villagers around him, and it inspired him to work harder. As the sun began to set, the village gathered again. They lit a fire in the center, waiting for Kian's return. Jake and Lyra sat together, their thoughts heavy with anticipation. "Do you think he's okay?" Jake asked, looking into the fire. Lyra nodded. "I believe in him. He is one of us, and he knows what is at stake." Just then, they heard rustling from the trees. Everyone turned, and Kian emerged from the shadows, panting but alive. The villagers cheered, and relief washed over Jake and Lyra. "I have news," Kian said, catching his breath. "The regime's base is heavily guarded. There are at least 10 guards at the entrance, and they have weapons." Everyone listened closely, eager for more details. Kian continued, "I saw prisoners being held in a large room. They looked scared but alive. We can save them." Lyra's eyes lit up. "This is good news. We must act quickly. If they know we are coming, they may move the prisoners." Jake felt a rush of adrenaline. "What's our plan, then?" Kian replied, "There is a side entrance that is less guarded. I think we can sneak in there. Once inside, we can free the prisoners and get out fast." Lyra nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. "We will need to create a distraction to keep the guards busy. Jake, can you help with that?" "Of course," Jake said, feeling ready for the challenge. "I can set something up to draw their attention away from the entrance." The villagers began to discuss their roles, and Jake listened carefully. They were all eager to help, each person ready to fight for their freedom. Lyra moved among them, encouraging and inspiring everyone. The room was filled with the frightened faces of the prisoners. Lyra stepped forward, her heart pounding with excitement and fear. "Listen to me," she called out. "We are here to rescue you. We will fight together to escape this place. Jake stood beside her, scanning the room. He could see that many of the prisoners were weak, but hope began to spark in their eyes. Lyra's presence seemed to give them strength. We have to move quickly, Jake said, his voice firm. The guards will be back soon. We need a plan to get everyone out. Lyra nodded. We can't just run out the front. There are too many guards. We need to find another way. One of the prisoners, a tall man with a determined look, spoke. Up, I know the layout of this place. I can help guide you to the back entrance. It's not as guarded. Good, Lyra said, feeling a sense of relief. What's your name? Ronan, he replied. I was captured while gathering supplies. I know a way out. Thank you, Ronan, Jake said, grateful for his help. Let's stick together. We'll need to move fast and quietly. The group quickly gathered their strength. Lyra and Jake encouraged the prisoners to stay close and be quiet. They all nodded, ready to follow Lyra's lead. Ronan, can you show us the way? Lyra asked. Yes, Ronan replied, moving to the door. Follow me and stay low. They moved cautiously through the room, and Jake felt the tension in the air. He glanced back at the prisoners, some of whom looked frightened but determined. They were ready to fight for their freedom now. As they crept down the hallway, Ronan led the way, staying close to the walls. They reached a corner and paused, listening for any signs of guards. Jake held his breath, hoping they would remain undetected. Okay, we go left, Ronan whispered, pointing to a door. The back entrance is just down this hall. They hurried down the corridor, moving as quietly as they could. Jake felt a sense of urgency. They were so close to freedom, but they had to be careful. As they reached the door, Ronan turned the handle slowly, peeking through the crack. It looks clear, he said, pushing the door open just a little. Let's go. They slipped through the door and found themselves in another hallway. This one was darker, and the air felt damp. Jake could hear distant voices and the clatter of weapons. His heart raced as he thought about the guards. Stay close, Lyra instructed, her voice strong. We can do this. They moved quickly, following Ronan's lead. He guided them through a series of twists and turns, and Jake felt a sense of hope growing. They were escaping. Suddenly, they heard footsteps approaching. Jake turned to Lyra, panic in his eyes. What do we do? Ronan quickly searched for a hiding spot. In here, he whispered, pointing to a small storage room. They all rushed. Inside, cramming together in the darkness. Jake held his breath as the footsteps grew louder. He could see the light from the hallway shining through the crack in the door. He hoped they wouldn't be discovered. The footsteps stopped outside the door. Jake could hear the guard talking. They must be around here somewhere. Keep looking. Time felt like it stood still as they waited. Jake could feel the tension in the air, and he glanced at Lyra. She looked calm, but he could see the determination in her eyes. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the guards moved on, their voices fading into the distance. Ronan opened the door carefully, peeking out. It's clear, he said, relief washing over him. They stepped out of the storage room and continued down the hallway. Jake's heart raced as they approached the back entrance. They were almost there. Ronan led them to a door that looked different from the others. This is it, he said. Once we get outside, we need to run. Lyra nodded. Everyone ready? The group exchanged nervous glances, but they all nodded. Determination etched on their faces. They were ready to fight for their freedom. Ronan opened the door slowly, and they stepped outside into the cool night air. The stars sparkled above them, and Jake felt a rush of hope. They were free. Now run! Lyra shouted, and they took off toward the trees, sprinting as fast as they could. Jake felt the adrenaline pumping through his veins as they dashed through the forest. The sound of their footsteps echoed in the night, and he could hear the distant shouts of guards behind them. "They're coming," he yelled. "Keep going," Lyra urged, leading the way. "We can't stop now." As they ran, Jake glanced. Back, he saw the guards emerging from the base, their lights flashing in the darkness. They were close, and he felt a surge of fear. But he pushed it aside and focused on Lyra and the prisoners. They reached the edge of the forest, and Jake could see the village lights in the distance. "Almost there," he shouted, urging everyone to keep moving. Ronan was at the front, helping the weaker prisoners keep pace. "Just a little further," he called out, his voice encouraging. The villagers sprinted toward the safety of their home, and Jake felt a sense of pride. They were doing it. They were escaping. As they reached the village, the doors swung open, and the villagers inside rushed out to greet them. "You made it," one woman cried, tears of joy in her eyes. Lyra turned to the group. "We did it. We're safe." Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him. They had escaped the regime, and now they were safe with their people. The villagers embraced the prisoners, welcoming them home. But just as the celebrations began, Jake's heart sank. He knew they were not out of danger yet. The regime would not give up easily. They would come looking for them. "We need to prepare," Jake sighed, turning to Lyra. "They will come for us. We need a plan to protect the village." Lyra nodded, her expression serious. "You're right. We can't let them take our freedom again." The villagers gathered around, listening to Lyra and Jake. "We must be ready to fight if they attack." Lyra said, "We will not go back to being prisoners." Jake felt the energy in the air. They were united, ready to stand together against the regime. "We can use the knowledge we gained from the base," he suggested. "We know their strengths and weaknesses now." "Yes," Ronan added. "We can set up defenses and gather more allies from nearby villages." Lyra smiled, her spirit shining through. "Together, we will fight for our freedom. We will not let fear control us." The villagers cheered, their voices rising in determination. They knew the fight ahead would be difficult, but they were ready. They would protect their home and their people. As the night wore on, Jake felt a sense of purpose. He was no longer just a scavenger. He was part of a cause, part of a family. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. With Lyra by his side and the villagers united, Jake knew they had a chance. They would fight for their freedom, and together they would win. The village of Xanthara was alive with energy. Villagers moved quickly, gathering supplies and preparing for the fight ahead. Jake felt a mix of excitement and fear as he watched everyone working together. They were ready to defend their home. Lyra stood at the center of the village, rallying. "The villagers. We have faced fear before, and we will face it again. The regime will come for us, but we will not back down." The villagers cheered, their spirits high. They were determined to protect their home and their freedom. Jake felt a sense of pride as he joined Lyra, standing beside her as they prepared. "For the battle, Jake," Lyra said, her voice steady, "we need to set up defenses around the village. If they come, we must be ready." "Right," Jake replied, feeling the weight of responsibility. "Let's gather everyone and divide the tasks." They quickly organized the villagers into groups. Some would build barriers using fallen branches and stones, while others would gather food and water. A few skilled villagers were chosen to train everyone in basic defense and combat. As they worked, Jake felt the tension grow. He knew the regime would not take long to find them. "We need to create a lookout," he suggested to Lyra. "Someone should keep watch for any signs of the enemy." "Good idea," Lyra agreed. "I will take the first watch. I want to be ready when they come." The sun began to set, casting long shadows over the village. Jake looked around, seeing everyone focused on their tasks. He admired their determination and bravery. They were no longer just scared villagers. They were warriors ready to fight God. As darkness fell, the village gathered around a small fire. They shared stories, remembering why they were fighting. Jake felt a deep connection to these people. They were no longer strangers. They were family. Suddenly, a shout broke the calm of the night. "Look out!" A villager yelled, pointing toward the forest. Jake's heart raced. He turned to Lyra, who was already moving. "They're here," she shouted. "Everyone, to your positions." The villagers sprang into action, grabbing makeshift weapons and rushing to the village's defenses. Jake felt a surge of adrenaline as he moved with them. They had prepared for this moment, and now it was time to fight. Lyra took her place at the front, her eyes scanning the trees. "Stay strong," she called out. "We will not let them take our home." Jake stood beside her, gripping a wooden club tightly. He felt ready, but also scared. He knew they were outnumbered. The regime soldiers were trained and armed, while they had only their courage and determination. The first soldiers emerged from the trees, their uniforms dark and menacing. "Surrender," one of the guards shouted. "You cannot win." Lyra stepped forward, her voice strong. "We will never surrender. We fight for our freedom." The guards laughed, but Jake could see the surprise in their eyes. They had not expected such bravery from the villagers. As the soldiers advanced, Lyra signaled for the villagers to hold their ground.